So as it said, I'm Edwin Endlich. I am the president of the National Alliance for Financial Inclusion and Literacy in the United States. And, I'm very excited to be here. This is a topic I'm incredibly passionate about based on the organization I run. And it's more timely than ever for us to have this conversation, more important than ever in the United States. We were talking before. It's a very, challenging issue to talk about inclusion and diversity today. So I'm very excited to have this conversation about what it means for Latin America and what it means for the people here. Over in the past few years, this part of the world has launched over 3,000 fintechs in 32 countries. There's been so much, change and progress, but I think we have a long way to go. And so that's what we're here to talk about. What can we do to help push inclusivity and push diversity forward? What are the problems and what are some of those solutions? Because we feel strongly, I think all of us do, that when you design and build products and services that are inclusive, everybody wins. It's good for business, it's good for communities, it's good for families. But how do we do that without being told to stop talking? So with that, I'd like to have our panelists, who I'm very excited who are here, introduce themselves and just give us your name, your role that you play, and how your role impacts inclusivity or diversity in your work.
Thank you for the invitation and the introduction. My name is Viviana Romo. I work at Mizuho Bank, that is a Japanese bank. I'm responsible for legal and compliance department. Here in Mexico, I am part of an association. The name is WOMSI in Spanish, WOMSI in English. That the meaning is Women in Cybersecurity. I think that is a good work that we are doing with this association, because as you know, there is a lack of women in information technology and in compliance topics, and we are working to improve the training, the participation in this type of forums also, and that's the way that I am helping to the women inclusion and participation.
Great. Lizette?
Thank you for having me here. I'm Lizette Neme. I'm partner at Áurea Partners. It is a law firm focused on financial regulation and public policy. So before joining the firm, I worked at the Ministry of Finance, where we issued the fintech law in Mexico. So that was back in 2018 when it was enacted. And given my role there, now I am very engaged in continuing the policy efforts in Mexico. So I'm part of different associations, and through the work I do with my clients, which are many digital financial institutions, and many of them focused on inclusion. There I try to continue the work and fostering inclusion in Mexico.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fernanda González, and I'm the owner of Kostik, and we are a PR, innovation, and headhunting agency. And we specialize in startups, fintechs, venture capital, energy, business, and a lot of the things that we do here is try to get women in these roles, okay? So I also work with women in blockchain, with women pitching their startups to investors. I mentor them. So I try to get more women in leadership roles in Mexico, in Latin America.
Amazing. Well, I think we've got kind of all of our bases covered in terms of the different areas that I think hopefully those out there will definitely connect with. So why don't we jump in? Let's get started. This first question, I'll go to Lizette. let's start with the very basic, top level. What do you feel is the biggest barrier that is standing in the way of financial inclusivity? And let's speak in Latin America for women today.
That's a great question because there can be many different answers on this, but particularly in Mexico, I think one that comes up to mind is informality, right? We have a huge percentage of the population which is informal. And even though there has been many financial institutions or new players, let's say, new players, fintech players, or in general, fintech financial entities trying to address this population, there comes things like asymmetry of information, for example. No credit is granted to someone that doesn't have a credit history, right? And that this usually happens to women as well. Why? Because women are usually dependent, or still dependent. A lot of the percentage in Mexico is still dependent on their spouse's income, right? Or not their spouse's income, but in their spouse's power over the income in the house. So there's come the second thing. Women right now face, I just heard this in another panel from a public servant. She was saying they face economic violence, financial violence. So what does this mean? This means that usually women, when opening an account, it will be a shared account with their spouse. So what happens here? The spouse has full visibility on what the woman does, or else they have the power on what she does or doesn't do, right? So this economic violence is also something real in Mexico. And I would say if I mention a third element would be lack of trust. It still exists, lack of trust, the perception of the risk, right, on financial institutions and more broadly fintech entities, talking about digital entities that actually are willing to grant access to this underserved population, but there's a lack of trust.
Yeah, I think that, we've talked a lot about building trust. I'm going to now jump right to you because I feel like from a compliance standpoint and building trust, I think it's important for us to kind of stay on this for a second because I think it's a major barrier that exists today, especially in the United States where I am, but here in Latin America, in terms of whether it's young people, underserved communities, first-time users of the digital space can feel a lack of trust. I'd love to know, Viviana, how you feel about what institutions can do to build trust.
Okay, it's a good. This is a good question. I think that one of the important things that the financial institutions need to implement are, for example, I think that the financial applications now are not user friendly in some cases. On weekend, I changed my iPhone, and it was so difficult to use my financial applications. I'm crazy. I have like 8 applications and different procedures. For example, I made a phone call to a bank. You need to go to the branch. In other case, you have to reinstall the application. It's so difficult to use the financial applications. And this, for me, this sense is the lack of trust because you don't know or you didn't know if you are using a secure application. Maybe in some cases it was so easy to use my financial application, and also it means like anyone can change my account or use the financial. I think that we need to implement more user-friendly applications. Also, I think that the awareness for the user, the financial users, is very important. For example, in terms of information security requirements, as a compliance officer, as you know, in Mexico, we have a lot of information security requirements to comply. Um, I think that this type of requirements help to the users to feel like more secure when they are using the applications. It's also a type of improve the trust in financial services. And also, I think that, like Lisette mentioned, the future for me is the open finance. Here in Mexico, we are working in this regulation. But in the future, for example, you can manage all your financial applications to take better decisions, to know where you can save in your money. But if you have all this view of the different financial applications, you can. I think that the new users and the users in the future can take better decisions in terms of financial investment and this stuff. That's all. I think that we
Yeah.
need to work a lot in the new regulation to regarding open finance.
Yeah, I love the idea of, the user experience of financial applications today. They are all so different. Some are two-factor. Some require a secret question to answer. Some require Face ID on your phone. And, the more stringent a financial institution can be, the more skeptical someone could be. I've never heard of a third password question before. And so I think it's a really good point about inclusivity can also be consistency in the kind of what your experience should be for a legitimate financial service. There should be 3 consistent steps to log in, and we don't have that now. And I think that could push a lot of people out from opening a new account if they're scared of, I've never been asked that before. I think that's a really great insight. I do want to go back now to Fernanda to talk a little bit about recruiting and how it's, a challenge in the United States, to, ever talk about recruiting in regards to meeting a quota or, a certain amount has to be made. How do you position the advantages of, a diverse team of leaders, of women specifically? What do they bring to a leadership team that would allow the financial institution to say, now I want a diverse team?
Yeah, so well, in financial institutions here in Mexico, we have like 48% of the workforce are women, but only 25% of them are in senior roles. So even when we have like half of the workforce as women, they don't have the opportunity to go like upstairs, right? So the thing is that the real leaders of these companies aren't thinking about like gender inclusion because of their needs as product uh, developers. Because if you don't have women in your senior roles, how will you provide the customers the products for them? You won't be diverse in this, okay? And also, women have different skills. We have different skills, right? And that can be included in these senior positions, such as creating teams, being leaders, like listening to the people that they are in their teams. So it's not that men don't have these skills, but women have it more. And it's not like meeting quotas, but it's like lever like having the advantage of having a senior uh board of women, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, a big discussion that we've been having in the US as it comes to recruitment is, trying to refine what the skill set you're looking for is. Let's take out who the person may look like who has that skill set. Let's not even talk about that. Let's just talk about the skills we want. We need strong listeners on this team, and I'm going to interview and recruit for strong listeners. And when we do that, do we naturally find ourselves with more diverse teams? Is what we've been trying to figure out and hoping our hypothesis is true, which is yes, if we are looking for these skill sets, you will end up with a more diverse team. Lizette, I did want to ask, what are some of the potentially less obvious ways that a company can start to move forward in financial inclusion that doesn't have to be maybe overwhelming from a structure perspective, or something that you feel like may make people uncomfortable? What are some easy, simple, non-traditional ways that we could get people talking about inclusion?
Yeah, well, I would definitely take what Viviana said right now, having more user-friendly apps and platforms, definitely. But from a policy perspective, that we need connectivity, better connectivity in Mexico, and up there is something that usually is not mentioned, but we need empathy with the user. And empathy can mean, hey, we don't need 4G or 5G. Maybe we need 2G for certain apps to run in that rural community where there's no 5G, you know? Or I don't know. I mean, understanding the user, understanding what they need for them to feel secure, safe, risk-free, for hey, you need my credit score or you need my ID, but I don't know who you are. So what do I need to do to make them feel safe, right? So yeah, I would say those should be the issues, the main issues.
Yeah, we've talked a bit about kind of the internet and how there's a desert of internet access in certain parts of a community. If they're not high spenders on internet, if they're not sought after by advertisers, the speed of internet in that community is very low. And if you're a financial institution and you've created an application with lots of animation, lots of bells and whistles, it has an AI chatbot, those communities, those apps will not run. So you've kind of allowed a sense of kind of exclusion right there from just not taking into account the internet speed in a community. I think that's wonderful as an insight. Viviana, I think as we've talked about, some of the challenges with having these conversations or, making the appeal to either shareholders or your internal leadership team, many of them are asking, tell me a time it has worked when someone has worked for inclusion and it made sense to the business, or it really did improve a community's connection to a business. And sometimes if we could use those case studies of, no, it does work, I promise, people would be more open. Is there any example you could share in your career?
Yes, as I mentioned, I'm part of a warm size association. As part of that, we have a lot of initiatives regarding information security. We prepare a lot of programs, for example, for awareness. We go to the schools. We prepare different type of programs with different levels. We, for example, go to the schools, the universities in other parts of the country to, for example, talking about secure passwords, secure connection, what are the security measures that you can take. And also we have specific programs for women that are not very familiar with information security requirements. I think that is very important. As Lizette mentioned, there are parts of the country that they don't have the infrastructure, the all the awareness, and it's very important. I feel very good because I'm part of this association that is working in this type of programs. I think that are very, very, very useful.
And you're seeing success of these programs, with sometimes you need, the bar graph or to see when you, work for inclusion, sales can go up or engagement can go up or, downloads of your app are increasing. Sometimes I feel having those good statistics behind you are really important when it comes to pushing for inclusion. Speaking of statistics, Fernanda, to go back to inclusion in the recruitment process and what sort of, the assumptions people make is that when you are looking to build diversity or you're looking to be inclusive in your organization, you need to lower your standards, which is awful. That is a conversation, but in the US, that is the first thing someone will say when you bring up, I want a more diverse or inclusive company. When it comes to the talent here, they say, oh, you want to lower standards? You want less good employees? And it's very hard to have a discussion with someone who comes with that. How do you, look at the ways to communicate with companies internally about building inclusive and diverse teams that does not mean lowering expectations?
Well, first of all, this is an unpopular opinion, but we need quotas. Because if we don't start with this, it won't become like a standard, right? If we don't do things like we have to reach that 40% of the senior level roles are women, we won't have a goal. So we won't go like, we won't have this objective of having this as a thing in your company. But the thing is that this is a good program in Banamex. A woman that works in these DEI programs just told me that in 2024 they reached 37% of their senior level roles being women, and also they closed the salary gap. They have better things also with the LGBT community. So this works. This really works. If you see other companies doing this, you will have like the goal to reach, and you have to adapt it even if you have a small company. And also in finance, this is like a huge goal because finance rules the world. So if we are not in it, if we are not making the decisions, how can we be like invested or seen as customers, right?
Yeah, I think, the word quota can be very controversial, and it may be, how do we redefine that word? I sometimes advocate for organizations and companies, don't use that word. Don't use the word diversity anymore, and which sometimes I feel like we've lost, if that is what I have to say. But I sometimes would have to say I'd rather a company succeed moving forward than somehow, sticking my, feet in saying you have to say quota, you must say diversity. Sometimes you have to change the language around these, but still accomplish what they set out to do. I have a couple questions that I want to just ask to the whole panel. The first is around new technology. I'm sure AI has been brought up at every panel here so far. And I would like to know your thoughts on how artificial intelligence can play a role in moving financial inclusivity forward. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of talk. Are there any areas that you guys feel particularly excited about? Anyone? Viviana.
I think that artificial intelligence will help with a lot of things in all the world. But I think that it's important that we first in the companies define an artificial intelligence policy, because it's not like we are going to use AI. We need to define policies, how to use the technology, how to this type of tools can help to the companies to improve any process. In terms of diversity or inclusion, I think that, for example, there we can use these type of tools to define some or to define some programs to very that we can customize to some type of people or country. I think that we can use this type of tools to do that, but I don't know if in any country they are using AI for this. I don't know, but in Mexico, I think that first we need to define a lot of other things before, like I say, the policies within the companies, but also we need a regulation to use the artificial intelligence.
So you feel that we are still too early to be
Yes,
looking
they are
at real
too early.
solutions. We
Yes.
still have to set the ground rules.
In the future, I think that will be very useful, but I think that in Mexico, we are now defining some other important topics regarding, for example, as I say, the regulation. And after that, we can use the AI tools for a lot of things.
Great. Lizette, Fernanda.
Yeah, I would say that obviously it is optimizing a lot of processes, and it is usually also used for customer service, right? So maybe it's helping process and operations in the entities, but of course we will have to be as well very cautious on the bias that it can bring for inclusion as well, because I mean, I'm sure it has been discussed here a lot and in many other forums where the one that is programming AI is a man, or not. Take away the gender. You're programming according to your reality, and you are biased. So we will have to be very careful for not to hinder more the inclusion.
But yeah, how AI is trained and what it's learned from, if it's pulling just from X or Twitter, that's not great. I don't know if I want to talk to an AI that's only learned on Twitter what to say back to me. So yeah, I agree. Fernanda, anything?
Well, I think that AI will simplify a lot of things for people. So it doesn't have to be like a AI platform that you can look at. It has to be a frictionless platform for everyone. So I know a platform that where you can send remittances from the US to Mexico, and people from Mexico receive them by WhatsApp. So they have AI and blockchain, but no one knows about this. So that's why you need AI to solve your problems, because they will simplify people's lives. And women in Mexico, and mostly in like very like low income populations, they need simple products so they can access. Most of the people that received remittances in Mexico are women. So
Amazing. Well, we have reached the end. I just want to say thank you to everyone here. Thank you to IFX. Thank you to Fernanda, to Lizette, Viviana, and for being here and being part of our panel. Hopefully this was informative, and we are here to answer questions afterwards if you see us. But again, thank you all so much, and please have a great time.